Welcome to the next episode of CommTALK, a BVS Film Productions podcast. And today we have a very special guest. His name is John Glaneman, and he is a Dale Carnegie trainer, managing director for Northeast Ohio. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Awesome. Well, welcome, John. I'm really glad you're here. I'd like to, first of all, find out a little bit about yourself and tell us about what you do.
Sure. And I really appreciate you having me on, Dan, and the ability to talk to your listeners. So, I started in Dale Carnegie back in the 90s, where I took the Dale Carnegie course with my wife.
Okay.
Because she made me do it. I did not want, I didn't want to do it, but she kind of laid down the law, and being the good husband, I said, okay. And so we took the Dale Carnegie course together. And then I just caught the bug and couldn't get enough. And I went back maybe a dozen times as an assistant. They call them graduate assistants, and you help the trainers. Mm-hmm. Then in 2000, I became a certified trainer, and got other certifications along the way in sales and leadership and presentations. It took about 17 years for me to get all of the Dale Carnegie certifications.
Wow.
Under my belt. And while all that was happening, Dan, I was a director at a Fortune 150 energy company.
Okay.
And so I had a day job that I worked, and then evenings I would train for Dale Carnegie, and a couple days throughout the year as well. Yeah, go ahead. No,
and I've always thought as Dale Carnegie is just public speaking. And is what was kind of the crux to that when you see all these certifications? What might have that been?
Well, you are not alone. We hear that all the time. Aren't you guys those public speaking people? And
people run the other way screaming because it's public speaking, but that's why we want to find out more.
They don't, people don't want to be public speakers if they don't have to.
Right.
But the response I give to that, Dan, is yes, we are. We are the public speaking company, and we're proud to be the global leader in helping leaders to become better presenters. But that's just a portion of what we do. In our core competencies, we have sales management, leadership, and presentations is certainly a part of it. Mm-hmm. And I think public speaking gets a bad rap, but anybody who holds meetings is a presenter and could do better at meetings.
We're kind of public speaking right now.
Yeah.
There's a public out there, right?
But they're not really listening. It's just you and me.
Oh, good point. Oh, didn't I tell you this is live? No, it's not live.
That would be okay too if it were live.
Sure.
And so Dale Carnegie started a long, long time ago, and we are still going. We're the gold standard in learning and development throughout the globe. And that's actually him behind me. That's Dale.
Yep.
And I keep his portrait there because I know he's always watching and wanting me to help people as best I can.
Oh, that's a great idea. Great idea. So, how did you, so we talked a little bit about how you got started in this and what you're doing. So who could benefit from what you have to offer? I mean, really, it sounds like almost anybody in the business world.
It is, but that's so broad as you're saying, well, everybody, of course, Dale Carnegie people will tell you everyone should take the Dale Carnegie course. It should be on your bucket list.
Yeah.
But we are a B2B company. So we work mainly with organizations, but individuals within those organizations to upskill and reskill for the challenges of the future. And Dan, we don't even know what those are yet.
Yeah.
Nobody saw COVID coming. Nobody saw the crash of 2008. Nobody saw. And so we have to be always ready to be our best. And we do work with salespeople. We work with sales managers. We work with leaders and executives.
Yeah.
And depending upon where you are is really where we meet you. And what I mean by that is the Dale Carnegie courses are foundational, and we work in 5 core areas. It's human relations. How do I get along better with other people? Do I even like people? Maybe I like people. Well, how do I get better at that? Self-confidence is a big thing. Communications, leadership, and then how do I have a better attitude by getting control of my stress? Dan, do you think people worry nowadays?
Oh, no.
No.
Yeah, that's probably the number one thing, right? For sure. The level of stress isn't going down with technology. It's going up. Yeah.
It really is. And so Dale wrote 2 books, which I recommend everybody should pick them up, truly. One is How to Win Friends and Influence People. And in that book, he has 30 strategies that help you and I deal better with each other. That's really what it's all about.
Fantastic.
And then the second book is How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And that book has 30 strategies to help us deal with what life throws at us.
Now, that one I haven't read yet. I'm going to pick that up for sure.
How about if I send you a copy?
That would even be better.
If you would let me do that, I would be happy to send you a copy of How to Stop Worrying and Start Living.
We'll see now on our next podcast, we can talk about that book and how it helped me.
Yeah. That would be a great sequel or follow-up to it. Mm-hmm. Well, if you look at the statistics and what's killing us, almost all of it points back to stress. Now, of course, there's environmental factors. It's our lifestyle. There's a lot of factors.
Yeah.
But if we're not living perfect lives, which I don't know who is, with exercise and diet, then stress exacerbates everything that is under the surface and makes all of it worse. Heart disease, strokes, diabetes. There's just a whole plethora of things that maybe aren't 100%. Yeah, I'm not a doctor, but I will tell you, doctors will tell you stress makes all of that 10 times worse.
Yeah. Yeah. And, there's studies out there, and I totally agree. I mean, look at the blood pressure. There's so many variables with that. Heart attacks, it all comes with the stress level. And I've heard stories, guys 29 years old, Wall Street, heart attack. One book I was reading, the guy had 4 heart attacks by the time he's like 32,
that's just horrible.
High stress. And then, he changed his perspective, his paradigm, and everything. We got out of that world and hadn't had a heart attack since. So, just a constriction of everything. It's just sad, But you're right. It's the life's full of it, and that it's how you perceive it and how you can cope with it, and that's a big part of it. So,
and luckily, Dale, a long time ago. I mean, how did he know that long ago? Because the older our company gets, and the older his books get, the more relevant they become.
Timeless.
It really is.
It is. Yeah.
It really is. And what's causing a lot of angst right now, Dan, is AI.
Yeah. Well, you know what I find, and this is dating me, but all the way back to faxes. Every time a new technology comes out, time frames shorten and responsibilities grow.
Right.
And that is just an overall rule whenever technology. And this new one with AI, I think it's to the point now where people don't know what to expect. And I don't even think the people that are creating the AI know what to expect out of it.
That's what's troubling. Do they fully understand where they're taking us? That's a valid question.
Yeah. A fax, you put a piece of paper in, comes out the other side. It had a function. Computer has a function. Yes, there's a lot of expansions to that. But this has a mind of its own. It can have a mind of its own, and it can learn. Yep. And that's the crazy part.
And that's got a lot of people pretty worried.
Right.
And look how fast we jumped from where we were, and then boom, it's Chat GPT.
Yeah.
Is everywhere. Yeah. And it was less than a year, just months.
Yeah. Yeah. And it still makes mistakes. It's like, it's not perfect, but it sure does speed things up right away, instantly.
It does. And it's hard not to use it.
Yeah.
When you got to do a proposal, or you're composing a letter and you want it to sound just right. I mean, it
kicks it out, and it does it perfect.
It kicks it out. I had, we're hiring, shameless plug. We're hiring for anybody in Akron, Cleveland, Youngstown. Reach out to dalecarnegie.com. But I was putting in an ad, a one ad, right?
Yeah.
And it said, do you want AI to create this? And so I'm thinking to myself, well, yes and no.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, worst case, I want to see what this thing is going to kick out. Right. And if I don't like it, I'll just redo it or tweak it or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was really good. And that made me more nervous.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't perfect, but it was really good.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty amazing. Well, speaking of which, what kind of positions are you looking for in your company?
So I appreciate that question. We're looking for the person who can sell and train. So for the longest time, there were really two tracks that someone could take to work with us. You could become a trainer. Mm-hmm. You could become a salesperson.
Yeah.
Sometimes they overlapped. Now, with the number of changes that we've seen in business really since COVID, we're looking for that person that can sell and train what they sell. Because if you think about it, if I'm going to work with your people, and Dan's going to bring Dale Carnegie in to do a customer service workshop for his employees. Okay. Well, I sell you that, and then I disappear till it's over, and then I call you and say, well, hey, how'd that go? Yeah. But if I sell you that, and then I deliver it, it's just one stronger relationship. And so that's kind of the impetus for what we're looking for in a professional.
Yeah. Yeah. That's tricky because there's salespeople, and you've always heard that expression, doers do, and, trainers train.
Those who can't teach.
Right. So it makes sense. It makes sense to try to find something like it. And I always used to do that in my business, I'd try to find an editor that, as video production that could talk to customers and that could handle that. It was hard. You'd have to go through 100 and you'd weed out the crayons, and you'd slowly get to the people that, many of them I found always had their own business already. Mm-hmm. They were either freelancers, so they already wore the hats. It's just a matter of they were looking for a place to land themselves. And that sounds like that might be people that you'd find too, similar that way, like trainers on their own that might, do that. So
those kind of folks we're looking for, people who are really good at sales presentations. Most of them can train.
Yeah.
We can work with them and upskill them to be a professional presenter as well.
Yeah. So after somebody takes your course or courses, what are some of the benefits that could come out of that for someone?
That's an easy question with a tough answer because we're talking about people.
Right.
And so it's different for each individual because of where we come from. Mm-hmm. We're all starting the race at a different point. Mm-hmm. And so I was coaching a pre-executive, somebody that is a high potential, that is going to become an executive in the organization. And when I talked to the stakeholders, and when I talked to his peers, they all said, how intelligent this guy is. And he just needs to slow down and get his bearing, like his executive presence.
Yeah.
And so for about 6 months, one-on-one, we coached this individual, and that's not what he needed at all.
Really?
What he needed was control over his health, which was causing him stress and worry everywhere, at home, at work. And it took us a while to get to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we just wrapped that up. The person I saw was calm, cool, relaxed, confident, and was now coaching his employees the same way that we coached him. And so what he got out of that for him was just really assessing his health and how that affects his mental state and impacts his job. And they gave him the promotion right before we were done, because the owners were just so pleased with what had happened.
Yeah,
so it's just whatever that individual is open to. You have to have a decent attitude, or you can lead a horse to water, but
right.
You can't make them drink.
So it sounds like you guys do an evaluation a little bit during the training and really hone in on what's needed more than anything, than just putting them through a program and,
it's a process for sure.
Yeah.
And there's always built in some sort of assessment, some sort of a breakthrough plan, some sort of a vision.
Yeah.
Hey, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 months? Why are you going there? And what skills will you need that you don't have or could hone that could take you there? So there's always some sort of an assessment to help the trainer and the individual know where they're at. And then that helps the trainer coach them.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. So where do you see the future of this going? Your business, we talked a little about AI, but what do you think?
So I think AI will be a part. I don't see us being replaced by AI. We were at an owners meeting last summer, and the folks from Guatemala are way ahead of us when it comes to holograms and AI and interaction. And so they brought up this hologram box, and it was Dale Carnegie. And this hologram answered questions.
Yeah.
And so it was remarkable, and it was terrifying. But once you get past the shock, because everybody's panicking, oh, this is going to replace us, we're not going to need trainers, it's going to be holograms, and like, yeah, I don't know that I agree with that, because one thing that I've seen in my 27 years in business is tech has a way of pulling people apart, not bringing them together.
Yeah.
And so as long as that's happening, Dale Carnegie is going to be needed in the world, really. And so I see us as growing and expanding and impacting more people, more organizations, because you get down to that people level. Everybody thought the automotive industry was dead because they had robots building cars. That's not exactly what happened.
Right.
There's still a lot of people working in the automotive industry and manufacturing. So there
was a guy on my street, and his job was to watch robots at Ford plant, and he had a great job. So yes,
that's a good job.
Yeah, mostly crossword puzzles during the day, but when it broke down, he'd pitch a tent there, and he didn't leave till it was fixed. Yep. So that's how it works.
That is how it works. Usually, jobs that are displaced, there's others that are created.
Right.
And so I'm very enthusiastic about the future of our industry, learning and development, and our product, and where we are going. Coaching is becoming a lot more ingrained with us, one-on-one coaching. Because if you think of training is like a one-to-many relationship. where coaching is a one-to-one relationship, and you spend a lot more time getting to know that individual. And there are so many leaders that can benefit from that may not have the time for an extended training course.
Yeah.
And so coaching has become really a part of us. And, our unique selling proposition is, well, we got Dale. We have How to Win Friends and Influence People. We have How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. Nobody else has that we can bring that 112 years of firepower to help people become who they were meant to be.
Right. Wow. That's great. So really you're doing training and coaching. Is that what's happening?
Yes, that's exactly right. We're doing training and coaching, and we train public, we train private. So sometimes we work just with a company. Just last week, I was with a group of leaders from several different companies that were owned by one umbrella conglomerate. And, we were working on fundamental leadership skills, even though the average tenure was 16, 17 years of leadership experience.
Wow. Yeah.
So the big thing we hear, as long as we keep hearing this, we are in demand. They say, we took Dan, and Dan was really good at what he did, so we promoted him, and we gave him people, but we didn't teach him how to lead. And so now we think Dan's going to quit.
Oh boy!
Okay, we can
fix that.
We can help with that.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well,
sure.
All right. And last question I have is, what would you tell someone that wants to take your job over and do what you do, just breaking off into the business? What would you say some of the things they should keep an eye out for, and what could work?
So first thing is you have to love people. You have to want to talk to people. If you want to avoid people, this is probably not the industry for you to join. And if you have a passion for helping people, being that servant leader, being that servant seller, that is a good first step. And everybody that wants to be in our organization, like it or not, you should sell for a couple years. You have to see, what is the market doing? What are people buying? What are the trends? What are the needs out there? And then that desire to be in a training room, to be the person that makes it happen. So Dale's no longer with us, and so we have to be in the training room for him, but we carry his torch.
Yeah.
And we take that very, very seriously. That we take his vision to the world 70 years later.
Wow. That's fantastic. It's so nice to see techniques that work in any environment, no matter what. And nothing's going to change that one-on-one, no matter what you do.
No.
So that's great.
And whether it's Zoom, whether it's in person, whether it's on the phone, I abhor email because there's no human interaction. Same with texting. I want to hear your voice. I need to hear the tone. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? It's so critical.
Yeah, I agree to some extent. That is a big factor. So, well, John, it's been great having you on our show. This is, our audience is going to get a lot out of it, and that's really fantastic. So let me ask you this, how can people reach you? And is there something they should do if they do call out to you?
So what I'd like everybody to do is to, on their phone, go to their app store or the Play Store and search for Dale Carnegie's Golden Book.
And we'll have it down on the bottom here.
It is free. And so you have 86,400 seconds every day. We want 6 of those. Will you give yourself, and will you give your family, your coworkers, will you give the future 6 seconds a day? Because that's how long it takes to read just one, not the whole thing, one of Dale's principles. And if you would like to know more about us, just dalecarnegie.com, and it will find the local site wherever you are. it'll find the franchise closest to you. So if you're in Cleveland, just go to dalecarnegie.com and it'll find Northeast Ohio Dale Carnegie, which is us. And you can fill out a contact us form. You can browse around. You can sign up for things. There's tons of resources, white papers and research that's all free. So help yourself. Go to dalecarnegie.com and have a field day.
Outstanding. Well, thanks again, John, for being on our show. And we look forward to seeing our group next time and with our next episode. So thanks.
Thank you, Dan.